Hi, Yomi.
Hi. Okay, new parak.
Listening.
Ayin Hey Omid Bays, 75b. Asoicher Sa'umnim, you hire workers. The hitu ze et ze. The Gemara will explain that means that the parties back out on each other. Either the employer backs out on the workers or the workers back out on the employer. Interesting, says the Mishnah. Elam zel zel tarumis. They cannot take each other to court for financial loss. They just can complain against each other. Except, if you rented like a trucker, at that time it was donkeys. Ve'asakadar. Lavi priaporin. Like a kadar is someone who makes pottery or who builds wagons. And he's going to bring, he's going to order special wood to make a chest, or a chalilim lakala o lames, or you've hired them to make a flute to accompany a kala, or I guess they used to use it for funerals. Upoalim lalus pishtom misra. You have flax that's soaking in water. Now, you got to get it out of there, otherwise there's going to be financial loss. And you need workers to take it out of there. And the Mishnah concludes, Kol davar she'avad, anything that you hired workers and there's going to be a financial loss if it's not done timely. And the chazru and the workers decided we're not going to work. Now, if you can hire other people and there are other workers available, you should do that. But makom she'ein sham adam, if there's no other workers to hire, so tzrichar alein omatan, you hire from far for a very high price, or you trick people, or you trick them to come back to work, and then they're going to be responsible, the workers who backed out, to pay. They always, if the workers, whoever went back on the deal, they have the bottom, their hand is on the bottom, they have to pay the difference. In Balabais, if the employer, and he has the bottom hand.
But how is he going to enforce it anyhow?
You're taken to court, and Beis Din will enforce it.
Okay.
Whoever goes back on the deal, he has the weaker hand. Now, the Gemara notes that it says, hi, we're on Ayin Vav, 76. That doesn't say that they went back on each other. Elahitu zedze, they tricked each other. How did they trick each other? A balabayis told one of the workers, go hire me some workers. And he went and tricked the workers that he was hiring. Now, how did he trick them? The balabais was offering $4 an hour, and he only offered $3 an hour, and they took that. So tarumas my avidite. What do you mean that they only have complaint? Svor, why should they have any complaint? Svor v'kabil. They heard what the terms are. They accepted it. So what complaint do they have? And the Gemara takes the other tack. The balabais offered $3 an hour, and he went and publicized $4 an hour. Well, hey, Idami, what's again? Ida Armalahu, If at the time he hired them, the shliach said, "Scharchem alai, I'm responsible," so nasiv limidi day. So he has to pay them. The Tanya circus apol lasos malacha mishalo ve'ereu b'shal chavero. A worker, somebody hires a worker to do malacha, and he shows him his friend's field. Nos lo schar mishlam. You have to pay him. The chazer v'noitim balabayis mashin did, and whatever the owner of that field benefited, but not necessarily the full wages. So if he says schar alai, so he has to pay full wages. So what's the case where they have complaints on each other? Lo tzricha damer lahu, shliach said to them, "Scharchem al balabayis." The wages are going to be paid by the employer. And it turns out that the employer is paying less. Then all they have is complaints against him. Let's see what the average minimum wage in this region is. And maybe the balabai should pay him that wage. So, that would be the case. But our case, some workers got $3 an hour, some got $4 an hour. And the workers say, if it wasn't for the fact that you told us it's 4, we would have waited for a job that was 4. The boys say, other people say, even though there's a prevailing wage, we're talking about some householders, besides owning the field, they would hire themselves out as workers. The Omrule, Ilab the Armet Lan Barba have Zila bin Musul Asgur. I would, if you wouldn't have said, it's only because you said 4 that I chose to work. Otherwise, I wouldn't have lowered myself to work. Based on that embarrassment, he has a complaint. We're not talking about the balabais who hired himself. We're talking about regular workers. Askina. And what's their complaint? The Amrile, they say to the Shaliach, Kiva, the Amrlan Barba, you told us the wage is $4 an hour. We worked hard. It's a higher wage, so we worked harder than we would have. So they have a complaint. Well, let's look at their work. If it was really good, then they deserve the higher wage. But it's berifka. This is by raking, where it's not very clear how good the job is. Well, Rivka Nami made a yada. You can tell. So the Mali Mayav got filled with water where we can't check it anymore. The case was the employer said to a shaliach, Schor ba'arba, pay $4 an hour. Vazali Amarlu Batlas, and he offered 3. So what are you going to say? They accepted it, but they have complaints. The Amarle, less late, al timna toiv mibala bios le'aliyadav lasois. There's a pasuk that you should not hold back good. If you knew he was offering 4 and you only offered 3, that was not a good thing that you did. And that's their complaint. Now, because the Mishnah said they have complaints, but no financial cases. Pshita Yarmale Balabais Bitlosa. Now, if in a case where the employer offered $3 an hour, V'azal iu Amarlu Barba, and the shaliach on his own said, I'm hiring workers at $4 an hour. The Amri lay, and the workers say to him, you know what? Moshe Amar Balabais. They say, we will work for whatever the Balabais said. So, Datayu Ayeloyo. They're hoping that maybe the Balabais offer a higher wage than what he's saying, and they would not agree to a lower wage. If the employer offered 4 and he went and offered 3, and they said, oh, well, we'll work to whatever the balabais agreed to. My. Do we say adibur didei kosamchi? Do they rely on the shaliach? The Amrle Mehemnis Lon Dahachi Amr Balabais, that we are trustworthy, we trust you that this is what the Balabais told you. O Dilma, they would rather just rely on what the Balabais said. Adibur Balabais kosamchi. And maybe when it comes to pay them, they'd have to be paid 4 because that's what the Balbais offered. So Toshma, we learn from a case of a get. A woman said to a shaliach, Haveli Giti. She had heard that her husband wants to divorce her. And she appointed a shaliach to go to San Jose, get the get, and bring it back to her and hand it to her. And only when she receives the get will she be megureshes, not when the shaliach receives it. And when the shaliach meets up with the husband, he says, Ishtacha Amrat iskabeligiti. He changed what she said and said that the woman appointed him to be a shliach kabbalah. That means the moment the get hits the shliach's hand, the woman would be divorced. Now, the husband doesn't know that the wife had only appointed the shliach to be a shliach to bring it. And what does the husband say? Omer hilech kamasha amra. Listen, I'm giving it to you, and let it happen whatever the wife wanted to happen. So this is similar to what we said here about the employer and the shaliach with the workers. In this case, where the shaliach changed the story, even if the shaliach brings the get back to the wife, eina megareshes. Because the husband was relying on her words. Excuse me, was relying on his words. And since the husband thought that the moment he gave the get to the shaliach, she was divorced, yet it was not so. The giving of the get was faulty. Because if the husband is relying on whatever the wife said, at least when the get comes back to her, she should be divorced because that's what she wanted. But we say it's not the case. So here we're learning that whoever hears something from a shaliach relies on the shaliach. That's what the person who sent him told him to do. And we wanted to use this to prove our case about the shaliach with the employees. Rav Ashi says, nothing doing. It's not a proof. Bishlama I itmar ibcha. If the case was reversed, where she had appointed the shliach to be a shliach kabbalah, iskabeligiti, where the moment the get hits the shaliach, she's divorced. But when the shliach showed up to the husband, he reported, Ishtacha amra haveligiti. The wife had said, bring me the get. And the husband says, V'hu amr al-hilich kamosha amra. Okay, take it and let whatever she said work. Here Rav Nachman says, the moment the get hits the shliach's hand, she's divorced. Because she had appointed him a shliach l'kabbalah, and the husband said whatever the wife said, so we follow what this mishalech wanted. Alma dadibur didaka samech. Or inami mishiget liyada megureshes alma dadibur dideko samech. Or do we say no? Maybe he's relying on what the shliach said. Elahasam. it's not about smichas das. And mishum de oker shliach l'shichus legamrei. The shliach, by changing the story of what the wife told her, ruined the whole giving of the gift. Darmalei shliach lekabbalah vina loylach vina. I'm a shliach lekabbalah, not a shliach to bring it. And he was never, in the first case, never appointed a shliach lekabbalah. So the shlichus ends. But we haven't answered the question regarding the story with the employees. Now, Iboy Sema, Haitana Chazr Nami Hitu Korile. If you enter in a deal with workers and they go back, you can use the word choizer or you can use the word hitu. The Tanya. You hire workers and the workers back out. Or the owner backs out. You can't, neither party can take the other party to court and get money. Like he had a job to do, and now he's going to have financial loss. No, he doesn't have. They don't have a financial case. They only have complaints against each other. When they were just hired, but they hadn't arrived. The truck drivers actually showed up. Or field workers were hired and they came and the field was flooded. So then the Baal Bais he has to pay full wages. You don't have to pay them full wages because it wasn't the full job. Now, if they went back and we say this, they only have complaints on each other, that's shelo yischilu b'melacha. They haven't started the job. You estimate the value of what they did. For example, the deal was that if they were going to harvest the field, they would get 2 slot. And katzru chatzia, they only harvested half. Then they would only get 1 seller. They were hired beged larag b'shnei slot to weave a garment for 2 slot. Argu chetzer v'nichal chetzer, they only wove half. Shamilam it's mashasu. You pay them half. Haya yofa shisha dinarim. If it was worth 6 dinar, no seller. Or yigrim lachtam v'yidlu shnei slot. Or you finish the job and they get the full payment. V'im seller, if it's worth a seller, no seller. Rav Dois Nomer Shamilam masha asid lehei asos. You make an estimation of what in the future it's going to look like. If it's still worth 6 dinarim at the end, even though he has to hire other workers, noislam shekel, he gives him half a selah, or yigmru malachtan v'yidlu shnei slaim, or finish the job and get full payment. V'im selah noislam selah. B'medvar amurim. When do we say that the workers get a payment for what they did? That's if it's not a financial loss and they can hire other people. If it's going to go, he's going to have a financial loss, he can hire other workers and give them the bill. Even at expense. Or mitin. Now, Kate said mitin. What does that mean? I offer you $1 now. He goes around and tries to get people $2 now. You can pay 40 or 50 times the normal wage by a dover or avud and then give them the bill. But there's no other workers you can hire in this region. If there are other workers and this worker went back and he says, just hire these people, then there's no financial claim he can make. He can have complaints against him. Tari Taraka made the Rav. noislem schar mishlam. That we brought a baraisa that the worker comes, if he comes already, you have to pay him a full salary. Amalei Chavivi, his uncle Rav Chia, Omar, ilu ana havai lo havi yavne lehem. Ela kapor bottle. I would pay him. He didn't do any work. He showed up. The field was flooded. I would pay him like an idle worker. And you say pay full wages. The Brisa itself says you have to reduce their salary. Lo simu kamei. He didn't finish the Brisa in front of Rav Chia. So that's why he said, and he agreed that you don't give him the full wages. Some learn a different nusach. Ichid Amri, simu kamei. They did finish the Brisa in front of him. V'achi kamar. Chavivi Omer, Iavi Analo, Avina Yavina Kla. I wouldn't pay them anything. You say like an idle worker? Elakasha, how are we going to explain the steer in the Brises? Like Kasha. He checked the land the night before. And the night before was worthy to do the work. And that's why he hired the workers. It was their muzzle that they showed up, there was no work. And that's why they wouldn't get paid anything. If the owner didn't survey his land the night before, then he has the achrayus. Somebody hired workers to weed his field, and rain came and filled up the field, and he can't work. So Isar la'ara mu'urte, if he checked it out from the night before, he did whatever he could to make sure, then say to the po'alim, the workers lose out. Lo Isar la'ara mu'urte, say to the balabais. If he didn't check it out the night before, then the responsibility of the balabais, and you have to pay them a full salary. Okay. Tomorrow we'll learn 6:45.
Okay.
6:45. We have a shir at 8:00. Minchas at 7:30, so 6:45 will work better tomorrow.
Okay.
Have a nice evening, everybody.